We're here today with VTEX and Whirlpool to talk about Whirlpool's digital transformation powered by AWS. I'm really excited to introduce this topic to you called the Whirlpool Transformation, Revolutionizing E-commerce with Pragmatic Composability. My name is Albert Gafanti. I run the retail technology group here at Ensemble IQ, and I run the consumer goods technology media brand, the media brand that is presenting this webinar to you today. I'm really glad you were able to join, and I'm really excited about the discussion we're about to have around Whirlpool, which is a renowned brand with a 111-year history and worldwide operations. We're going to really discuss how Whirlpool recently established itself as a growth leader in the e-commerce market by unifying its e-commerce technologies with a pragmatic approach to composability. So what does that mean? We're going to dive into it today, and we're going to really explore how Whirlpool modernized its e-commerce architecture while keeping costs in check. We'll learn how Whirlpool successfully balanced innovation and cost control, paving the way for a scalable and flexible modern architecture that resulted in an enhanced online customer experience, increased online revenues, and efficient management of global sales operations. So a lot of great successes to talk about, and we're really going to talk about the how. How did they do that? And we have great speakers here to kind of lead that discussion. Just real quick housekeeping. This webinar is being recorded, and after the live airing of this webinar, you will be able to engage with it as an on-demand webinar. You'll be able to share it with your colleagues, and we'll send you all that information via email, or you can access it from our website, consumergoods.com. Also, big note here, this is an interactive webinar, so we'd love to hear any questions you might have for our panelists as we move through our discussion and our presentation. So please feel free to utilize that Q&A functionality on the platform today, and we will definitely get back to you, if not live, directly after the webinar, and we'll answer all the questions that you might have. Okay, let's introduce our speakers today. I am thrilled to introduce this extremely talented panel discussion as we delve into Whirlpool's digital commerce transformation story. We have Mariano Comide. He is the founder and co-CEO of VTEX. We have Murat Genç. He is the Global Data Technology and Transformation Officer at Whirlpool. And we have Justin Hahnemann, who's got the biggest title and longest title of all, Head of Worldwide Retail and Consumer Goods Go-to-Market, Head Worldwide Food and Beverage at AWS.
Oh my God.
It's a pleasure and an honor. I'm really excited to delve into this with all of you. Justin, you get the honors of kicking off the discussion and table setting for us.
Excellent. Well, thanks, Albert. And thank you for all your partnership with these WebExes. As you know, we have a lot of fun doing these together, and really appreciate the partnership with Ensemble IQ, with CGT and with RIS. You guys have just been incredible, and we really enjoy doing these programs with you. And thank you to our partners. VTEX is one of our extraordinary partners in the commerce space, and Whirlpool, just an amazing worldwide customer of ours. And the story today is a good one and an interesting one, because it's not just like a customer with us. It's like this kind of triple threat of us with a partner with a customer. So I'm really excited about the story. I'm going to give you a bit of setup on just our approach to the industry in case you haven't worked with us here at AWS in the past. I'm going to do a bit of share with you some of the insights and metrics around why this space is so hot right now and why it has been just booming the last couple of years. And then I'm handing it over to Mariano and Murat, and they're going to run with it. So I'm going to take 2 or 3 minutes here and then hand it over, and that's our plan for today. So hopefully Amazon the vision is to be Earth's most customer-centric company. In the consumer products or manufacturing space, we're really focusing on helping companies like Whirlpool build great brands that consumers love. We like to say we're builders. We're known to be as builders here at AWS, by the way, and we're builders for builders of brands. So kind of cool that we get to work with extraordinary brands to help them launch and grow and evolve brands worldwide. We work with those companies too on their route to market, and also in the supply chain space. I mean, an area we're obviously known for here at Amazon. It's an area that we really advanced in terms of taking capabilities from what we've learned at Amazon and been able to bring those to market with partners like VTEX and others in the operational space. On the retail side, and the conversation today is going to really sit between these two industries. But on the retail side, we like to say we're born from retail. AWS was born in 2006 as the platform on which Amazon.com was built. A leader in the cloud space for 6 or 7 years. There was no other in the cloud space except for AWS. So we like to say we're born from retail. And many of the services and capabilities that we have launched and grown have come from retail. Pretty extraordinary. Focus on frictionless and unified commerce, which has been definitely the buzz and front and center this year, all the way back to NRF in January. And even looking into last year, we saw a huge increase in the interest around commerce platforms and evolving those commerce platforms. And again, on the retail side, a lot of our customers asking us for help around inventory placement, inventory visibility, store ops, planograms in stores. And many of our retailers are growing stores, so that's where we really focus. Okay, so let's dive in a little deeper on today's conversation. So the reason this is such an important topic, this whole idea of commerce and thinking of commerce in new and different ways and expanding kind of how you engage with end customers, is because of, look at the numbers. Like 81% of brands plan to deploy a unified commerce platform by the end of this year. 30%, if you think about this number of customers or shoppers, they're more likely to shop a brand over and over again when they're engaged across channels. 90% of us, like you and I and others out there shopping, expect a consistent interaction. If I go in a store, if I go online, if I call the manufacturer and I'm engaging on an order. And you think about also 83% of customers say that convenience in shopping is more important today than ever. But convenience is only possible when you're able to provide a platform that engages across channels, it helps with support, that is grounded in data. You're going to hear a lot today about the importance of data and a strong data platform to drive interactions. And this whole idea of unified commerce is again, a framework we've been using this year and last to really frame this idea of thinking about getting beyond the silos. Now, many of you have heard the word omnichannel. And you'll see the progression here from single to, hey, we're going to go to market in multiple channels, to we're going to try to have an omni-channel approach. And if you're in the retail or manufacturing space and you have a D2C platform and you've got an e-commerce presence, you know that omni-channel is kind of worked for some, but not others. And so now what you're really seeing is a real focus on what's called unified commerce. And a couple other buzzwords you've probably heard that are around the space are things like API-led, headless, composable, right? If you think about those types of elements that go into a commerce platform, those are really the things that enable a lot of the capabilities you see on this page here around things like multiple payments, multiple routes to market for delivery and distribution, pricing and promotions, and so forth. So give you just a bit of framework. Again, what are we doing here at Amazon and AWS? What's important about this space as you're thinking about the conversation today? And with that, I am going to stop sharing slides and hand the conversation over to Mariano and Murat, and they're going to be the main event today. So enjoy this conversation and this story. Take note because there's a lot of great lessons here. And with that, I'll hand it over to Mariano. And Mariano, I know you're on mute, so I have to say it.
Oh, live event, sorry. So Justin, thank you very much. Murat, so pleasure to be with you in the webinar here. Just putting colors, what's the Whirlpool Corporation? Could you give us a explanation, say what's the reach of Whirlpool Corporation in the world?
Yeah, definitely. Whirlpool is a global household brand. It's a 111-year-old company, and we have been improving lives of people in their homes with our appliances, with our products, with our services. And we operate in more than 50 countries. And Whirlpool, it's a multi-brand portfolio, brands like, Maytag, Jenn-Air, Whirlpool, Brastemp, Indesit, or even some of our brands like Yummly, which is a recipe and smart cooking platform and all that. So it's a pretty rich portfolio of brands to improve people's lives at home.
Perfect. And on the digital commerce landscape, could you describe a little bit of the digital commerce architecture that you built at Whirlpool, the core technologies, and why you chose the path that you chose? And give us at the end of the day, is to manage a global company like Whirlpool. It's not like easy thing. And you are one of the kind of CIOs or executives in the IT sector that I most admire, because you make it simple. And I believe simplicity is the word of moment. And you are on this for a while. So it's an honor to hear from you. Say, why did you choose the path? What is the digital commerce architecture that you chose to build in Whirlpool?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a great question. When we think about a couple of principles and a couple of drivers on why we chose the path we have chosen, first of all, we would like to create great consumer experiences and value for them. So it actually goes hand in hand with our products. It goes hand in hand with all the content we create for them to better use our products in their daily lives. And it's also to create actually great experiences across channels and create that lifetime relationship with our consumers. Typically, consumers are loyal to their appliances, their brands, and it's a long relationship. So managing that experience, managing the lifetime value of the consumer and the relationship is really key. And secondly, it's also about the marketplace, right? So we obviously operate, as said, in more than 50 countries. We have a portfolio of more than 10 brands. So we need to make sure we are actually leveraging that portfolio and that rich landscape, different markets where we can seamlessly reapply great innovation happening with one brand, one country in other places. So what we go after is not just like speed of learning, which is very important, but also speed to scale. Because obviously, if you create a great experience, if you optimize your conversion funnel in your e-commerce in one country for one brand, that's great to learn. But what truly creates value and impact for many more millions of consumers and for the total company is at which speed you can scale those learnings. So we go after both the speed of learning, which is, that experimentation, but also speed to scale, which is that broader impact in, millions of consumers' lives, as well as in multiple countries and brands for Whirlpool. And then finally, the other principle is it's important that we have the right hands-on keyboard skills on the business side. So the solutions, the technologies we are building should be really fit for hands-on keyboard. And at the same time, it needs to be composable. It's a hybrid kind of model where we have in-house components and we have components platforms that we are buying. So we need to engineer and integrate those different components seamlessly so that it's really evolving, modular, and we are not too dependent on any single technology, and we can go at the pace of the consumer. So those are like three principles we follow, and with that, obviously the architecture we build follows this, microservices, API first, headless, cloud native type of model, where we have the underlying, I would say, data and AI foundation and the infrastructure. And then upon that, we put the right e-commerce platform, the right order management platform, the right experience management platform. And then it's all supported by tools such as, performance marketing tools, analytics tools, as well as developer tools, so that, as said, we can continuously run a pipeline of new integrations, new components, new developments. And also, one of the reasons I mentioned earlier about scale, that we have chosen this path of a unified e-commerce platform, is you really do not want every country, every brand reinventing what has been already invented. So in order to benefit from Whirlpool's global scale, you need that balance between really capabilities, I call them Lego blocks, that you can use to create great experiences in a country, in a brand, based on the consumer and customer needs in that region, in that country. But at the same time, whatever you are building, typically they're relevant for other countries, other brands. That unified e-commerce platform architecture enables us to massively scale experiences that are working well in one country with one brand.
Yeah, you said something that triggered something in my mind. The Lego and the ability of doing like a multiple modules and independent modules. And that also can be a trap if you don't have conscious of the cost. So one of the side effects of a very kind of enhanced freedom for IT, it is that every single department on business, on finance, on HR, and any single department will choose a multiple kind of softwares, and everything needs to work together. But at the end of the day, can end up being a tech spaghetti or too complex or too expensive. But the other hand, if you just put this in one only thing, actually is blocking yourself. So how, when building your e-commerce tech stack, how did you balance making the right technology investments with the profitability in mind? So how did you manage the costs? I know that you are a big fan of the composable commerce. So talk to us about these kind of architecture that allows you to test right off without a big capex. Give us a little bit more color on this, please.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I'm really blessed that we have a very strong, very engaged global digital community of experience and practice here in Whirlpool. So essentially, we bring all the key leaders from a business technology, sales, marketing, supply chain perspective, all the people who are enabling and leading the commerce business, e-commerce business for Whirlpool together as part of that. We call it DCOE, and we actually drive a lot of reuse, share, and reapplication of like what works well, what we are learning, and our motto is not just sharing the learnings, which is important, but obviously the cloud infrastructure enables us to share code instantly. Sometimes in my experience, I've seen cases where people might be just sharing learnings in a PowerPoint and expecting others to learn and then build it by themselves. So we actually switched it here at Whirlpool. So our motto is, yes, we need to drive that sharing, learning, training, upskilling, all that. But we don't want to just share learnings. We want to share code. We would like to share applications. We would like to share new content solutions or experiences or new algorithms that work in one country. We'd like to make it available to all other countries and brand instantly. And that's why we actually curated what we call this e-commerce marketplace. And now we have more than 40 countries who are all using this marketplace, e-commerce marketplace. And whenever they have a new business need, they can actually check out what is already there, what's already working. And it could be built internally, or it could be an external component which has been used by some other country or some other brand. And instead of starting from scratch, they can take that from that marketplace, seamlessly integrated to their unified commerce platform, and just start delivering value. Think about that speed and think about the cost efficiency that creates. I think a lot of the time, where I believe waste comes from is just relearning, rebuilding the same thing, which has been already built. So just by creating that e-commerce marketplace and creating that unified e-commerce platform, that actually creates a lot of cost efficiency for us. So that's I would say number one, like getting both the people, share and reapply learning, as well as the reapplication of code and applications and experiences. That's the first thing.
So
I think
What,
Yeah,
just
sure,
clarifying
sure.
to the audience here, when you mention about e-commerce marketplace, it's nothing like Amazon. It's not a B2C marketplace. It is a software applications marketplace where the units of Whirlpool can choose to be as complex or as simple they want, and enables them to test. This is what we were talking offline as the building economy, testing economy, and allowing like each region to test a new search or a new comments tool or a new a new payment in a fraction of the time that used to be before. So transforming what was like projects into testing thing. And this is something that I admire a lot in Whirlpool. You, Murat, you shape a policy or a culture of be proud of testing, not of building only, because a lot of legacy organizations have the IT peer like bringing things in and not proud of testing what is already there. So you're not only doing with third-party vendors, but also country to country, allowing themselves to share and testing things that other countries did. And this is resulting in incredible experiences. I believe we do have a slide. So if I can ask the production to pop up the slide, I believe we do have the slide that show a little bit of these vision, modularity, what we can call the composable commerce approach, the composability. Actually, Gartner is starting to call these as a pragmatic composable commerce, because you have the freedom to choose, but also you have the freedom to build. So this is one of the examples that Whirlpool is using in the world, and pretty successful. So we are really proud, because the Whirlpool can be a benchmark for the industry. And as Whirlpool is not a technology company, the press is not covering Whirlpool as they should. And I'm glad that you came to this webinar, and AWS and Assembly IQ, like, thank you very much, because Whirlpool might be the go-to company in terms of a modern technology in the world, and the world needs to know that. So yeah, talk about more on the third topic here. It's about the main changes, Murat. We, in the last 4 years, we saw big changes, like pandemic came, all the consumer goods company were without inventory, plants are down, and then consumption came again pretty high, and the volatility was there and is still there. So what are some of the main changes you have seen in the last 4 years, and how Whirlpool adapt to this new reality?
Yeah, definitely. I think we have seen some irreversible changes in consumer customer expectations in digital and e-commerce in the world, in the ways we work and collaborate and live our lives. So there has been significant changes. So one of those changes is obviously moving into more like hybrid models. And for our consumers, this means actually they spend more time at home. They actually use our appliances more. So that actually increases the demand for not just products, but also content and new features. So for example, on the IoT side, what we do is in appliances, sometimes the best day of the product is when you buy that product. We are reversing that. When you buy a connected appliance, Whirlpool appliance, that day one is great, but we also would like to continuously improve the appliance and the functionality and the value you get out of it with over-the-air updates, so you can actually get new features. Like, for example, during the pandemic, one of the updates we did was an air fryer functionality to our smart ovens. So we have seen people are cooking more, and they also would like to cook quickly. So actually, we were able to update our ovens with smart functionalities over the air, so that they have a better product now suddenly. So that's one, just people spending more time at home, using our products more, and how do we continuously improve that product experience. The second probably change has been really related to, I said, those consumer expectations. Like before COVID, maybe we were talking about 48-hour deliveries, but during COVID, it became more like 24 hours, 2 to 3 hours. So that's not going back. I think consumer expectations are a lot higher now in terms of speed of delivery. So that requires a different supply chain, that requires a different consumer service that we needed to upgrade in our supply chain capabilities, in our infrastructure. And also, obviously, from an engineering perspective, from an e-commerce perspective, we needed to make sure our teams around the world can seamlessly collaborate. So we have actually engineering hubs around the world to build these global platforms and enhance them continuously, as well as we have teams in every country to innovate and experiment with consumers and customers. So how do we make sure they seamlessly collaborate together in a hybrid working model? So that was definitely one of the things we needed to do. And I was really happy to see, especially our technology teams, to adapt this new hybrid model really, really fast. And then I would say also, the world has made probably more than 10 years of progress in digital and e-commerce, both in terms of the business size, as well as also learning. So really happy to see how fast, how accelerated the learning of our teams were across all functions, and how much that accelerated our progress in terms of growth from an e-commerce channel growth as well. And then also just consumers have different higher level expectations from a seamless omni-channel experience perspective. Like that's really, really important. Whichever channel they choose to interact with us, whether it's in the store, whether it's through the call center or in social media applications, or whether it is through our mobile apps or website, how do we make sure we can seamlessly create those superior experiences and serve our consumers, bringing the data and knowledge across all those channels is really, really important, because that also became a default expectation.
Yeah. So time is just flying. I'm going to jump to our last question, and please explore. Whirlpool uses to deliver technology to all the regions, a kind of what you call a marketplace, connected marketplace. Let's call a live connected marketplace. Of course, Whirlpool uses VTEX as the backbone for this connected commerce. And we are probably serving you in more than 35 countries, including regions of top volume for D2C. So what can you say to finalize this webinar about using a composable commerce architecture to deploy a unified commerce experience for the Whirlpool consumers all over the world? So you do have a great, amazing D2C experience, maybe a go-to kind of case study for other consumer good companies. So what can you say about using this composable commerce as your core strategy, and how these accelerated or transform the company itself? Do you see like a long-term use of this kind of approach? You're not like young in this industry. You have been through the waves that was before this kind of a testing economy. So now that we are on this, do you believe this is gonna rest for many years in front of us? Give me your vision on composable commerce architecture to deliver a unified commerce experience.
Yeah. I think certainly I have, enough battle scars like you, Mariano, from an e-commerce technology and data perspective, across Europe, China, US. So I think the composable architectures, you can call it microservices, you can call it Lego blocks, however you would like to name it. I think they are here to stay, because this is the domain where the speed of change is a lot faster than some of the other I would say, enterprise technology domain. So to kind of like really be in the forefront and to respond to that speed of change, well, you need that composability, you need that modularity. So that's really important. I think the thing is, we never need to, like, we should always remember technology is not the end goal. The end goal is to create great value in consumers' lives, create great experiences. We need to make sure we have the right people, technology, and process capabilities that are there to enable these superior experiences, continuously improve those experiences, and then derive scale, global scale. So having that unified platform and having the freedom in a framework across different countries and brands so that you get the best of speed of learning and the best of the impact from scale seamlessly is, again, really, really important, especially for companies who are operating in multiple countries, who have multiple brands in their portfolio. I think that's the second thing. And then the third one is really, obviously, what we would like to drive is, as similar as possible and as different as needed mindset. So then you get the best of, like, things who are very local, and you derive that local experience with your consumers and customers, but then you get also the right reapplication. I think a platform, a technology foundation, and an organization model enabling that is really, really important. Therefore, we moved into also, agile DevSecOps, digital product management practices in our organization with our talent. So we have actually upskilled and trained all of our organizations from a digital product management perspective, because then you need to really manage those platforms and technology as a digital product around the world. I think some of those fundamentals are here to stay, as well as the importance of having the right infrastructure, having the right supply chain, and seamless capabilities. And I'm a huge fan of, like, really hands-on keyboard, where we are continuously testing and learning. When I lived in China, I was really amazed by Double 11. And so I kind of, like, over time started thinking about this kind of guidance or vision for our teams, which is, if we are able to run every day like it's a Black Friday or like it's a Double 11, I think that's massive. Like, and the technology needs, the people needs, the data analytics needs is also massive. It's real time. So how do you create that real time operating model? How do you create that real time technology foundation, data foundation? And if you are able to operate your e-commerce like every day it is a Double 11 or a Black Friday, think about the impact that can create. So that's our motto here. And hopefully some of these learnings over time is helpful for others.
Murat,
Fantastic
thank you very
conversation.
much.
Yeah. So thank you, Mariano, Murat. It was great to be a fly on the wall for that discussion. So much information. I'm glad that we are recording this, because I know our viewers are going to want to kind of refer back to it and really extract all those sort of nuggets that you just gave us. I'm going to put up I'm going to ask to put up that slide, that architecture slide, as we wrap up, because I think that really kind of illustrates the complexity, but also the flexibility that you've created in your architecture. I'm scanning a lot of the questions that have come in. We're not going to be able to get them all. Again, we'll be able to answer them after this. But a lot of the discussion, a lot of the questions center around how you've developed the flexibility, and also how you tie that with consumer experiences, and how do you create sort of a unique architecture that listens, that reacts, and that adapts along the way as well. So this is something we can actually send it to all of our attendees after the event, so you all have it, and you can refer to it. And I would advise you all to sort of reach out to any of our panelists here with any questions that you might have as it relates to this or anything else that we discussed today. I'm going to give everyone a real quick last word, maybe 10 seconds on some parting thoughts as we wrap the webinar up. Mariano, I'm going to start with you. as you know, what sort of advice do you have for any consumer goods executives who are kind of leaning in and really want to get started on the journey?
I believe we cannot ignore the moment that we are. Interest rates in a peak, cost of the money like pretty high, and the IT that was in a reality of unlimited money for the last 15 years now needs to face the destiny that we need to be efficient. So one thing that I admire a lot in Whirlpool in Murat kind of administration is it is an IT for business purpose. So that is not implemented anything if there is no a business purpose. And I believe the tip that I can give for the executives is in a world where the money has a cost, you don't build by building it. You just move your mentality from building to testing, because you're going to provide a much better outcome for the business in a fraction of the time. So my tip is the composable commerce architecture, providing unified commerce experiences allows companies like Whirlpool to go for a small country with a small volume with a very, very, very simple architecture and go live in 30 days.
Yeah.
But also in countries that they have billions of dollars and a complex scenarios, they can build custom things, they can use third-party tools, they can share technology in between countries in a seamless way. So this is the tip. Embrace the testing economy, get rid of the building economy.
Excellent, thank you. Murat, what are your 10-second advice for the audience on how to, what to focus on as they start out?
Yeah, I think, really everything starts with the consumer, the people we serve, improve lives, and then really speed of learning, experimentation, at the same time, speed to scale, making those two work together, as well as really bringing the right people capabilities, organization, process, technology capabilities together to be able to really operate in a more agile way with the right cost efficiency. As Mariano mentioned, I mean, we are able to launch new countries within weeks. We are able to scale new functionalities within weeks. That marketplace, that composability is really, really important. And also, frankly, great partnerships. It's always very, very important. You can never do this all by yourself. Having great partnerships, having internal engineering, technology, product capabilities, but also having great partnerships. And Mariano is a great partner always, is really key. So those are a few last words on my side.
That's a great segue over to Justin. Justin, I know you mentioned the triple threat. So what are your sort of parting words?
My last words are thank you. Thank you, VTEX. Thank you, Whirlpool. We appreciate your partnership. We appreciate you as customer. We learn from you. We enjoy engaging with you, and we appreciate just the level of partnership and really engagement with you all worldwide. So that's my final word.
And I'm going to extend that spirit of thank you to our audience as well. Thank you for coming. I hope you found this to be valuable. Again, we'll provide all the information to you on how to continue to engage this webinar. Of course, feel free to reach out to our panelists. And I also want to thank our panelists for your extremely valuable insight today. Thank you for taking time out and telling your story. So thank you all. And I hope you all enjoyed the webinar, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you. Bye.